Spring Day. I'm Georgiana Mayer, Chair of the Hope Giving Circle Executive Committee. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Hope Giving Circle Women at the Table, our virtual panel discussion. I'd like to begin by thanking our generous event sponsors for making this morning's program possible. Amita Health, Weber Stevens Products, Wintrust, Consumers Credit Union, Linda J. Lang, Markle Corporation, and Heartland Bank and Trust. Hope event sponsors help underwrite the cost of these events so that 100% of our donations raised for Hope go directly to scholarships. So we're deeply grateful for their support. And if you're interested in learning more about sponsoring, please contact Shannon Hines at the Harper Education Foundation. I'd like to acknowledge all the Hope Giving Circle members and supporters who are attending this virtual event today. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your support of Hope. And thanks to all of those here today who are new to Hope events. We're glad that you're with here. The Hope Giving Circle is the Women's Philanthropy Program at Harper College. The acronym HOPE stands for Helping Others Through the Power of Education. The Hope Giving Circle provides women in our community with the opportunity to come together to help female students pursue and achieve their educational dreams through scholarship support, mentoring, and professional development opportunities. And since the program's inception, I'm pleased to announce that we've raised over $200,000 for the Hope Scholarship Fund. This academic year, we surpassed awarding $140,000 in scholarships to date. That means 14 amazing students have each received $10,000 scholarships that they can use at Harper and when they transfer to a four-year institution. The average cost of a year's tuition at Harper College is about $4,500. So as you can see, the value of this scholarship has great impact, whether they use it here at Harper or take it on and apply it at their four-year institution. In addition to financial support, the Hope Scholarship recipients also are paired with a mentor from the Hope members, which is one of the things that makes Hope Scholarship so special and unique. I'd like to thank our Hope Giving Circle members and all the generous donors to the Hope Scholarship Fund for your incredible generosity. This summer, because of your commitment and support, we'll again award 4 $10,000 scholarships for the 2021-22 school year. And at the end of the program this morning, you'll have an opportunity to learn more about the Hope Giving Circle and how you can make a difference. We're very excited about today's program, Women at the Table panel discussion. The panelists today are leaders from a variety of fields that have historically been male-dominated. And they'll share their experiences and insight on an important topic of women in leadership. We're also delighted to have Harper's president, Dr. Avis Proctor, here to moderate this important discussion. And at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our Dr. Proctor. Dr. Avis Proctor became the 6th president of William Rainey Harper College in July of 2019. Dr. Proctor has more than 25 years of experience working in multicultural environments as an innovative mathematics educator and academic administrator with a focus on teaching, service, and research. As a higher education scholar and an Aspen Presidential Fellow, she contributes to the professional discourse from local to global levels on a progressive leadership in higher education, research-based instructional strategy, and strategic community engagement, economic development, and the STEM pipeline for underrepresented groups. Dr. Proctor believes in working closely with local school districts, the business community, and higher education institutions. Her work at previous institutions has included expanding articulation, internship, and employment opportunities to enhance student-employer connections for current students as well as alumni. She's also provided collaborative leadership for early childhood education, dual enrollment, and college readiness completion initiatives, which have gained national attention. Dr. Proctor earned her bachelor's degree in mathematics education at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, a master's of science in teaching mathematics at Florida Atlantic University, and her doctorate in higher education at Florida International University. Dr. Proctor and her husband are proud parents of one son. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Proctor.
Thank you, George. I didn't expect a full bio review, but I appreciate that. I'm so excited to be here this morning to hear from some stellar women in our community. Welcome to the Hope Giving Circle's 2021 Women at the Table session. This is the 5th annual Women at the Table event, an engaging panel discussion on women and leadership. I had the opportunity to attend my first Women at the Table event last year, believe it or not, last year, which focused on female business owners. And I must say the conversation and insight was stimulating, and I'm looking forward to the rich discussion we're going to have today. We have assembled an inspiring panel of female leaders from various industries. The common thread is that they have carved out careers and achieved at the highest levels in what are or have been traditionally male-dominated fields. Through today's discussion, they will share their stories and provide insights on the opportunities and challenges facing women in these industries and in leadership overall. Before we introduce our panel, I wanted to share some key facts or food for thought about where we stand as a nation in respect to women shattering the glass ceiling across industries. According to Catalyst.org, in the United States, only 7.2% of women worked full-time in male-dominated occupations in 2018. Catalyst defines male-dominated industries are those industries with 25% or fewer women. Women's job growth is driven by employment in male-dominated fields. Between 2016 and 18, women's employment increased by 5% in industries consisting of 2/3 men. Fewer than 25% of CEOs nationwide are women, according to a recent article by Forbes magazine. But progress is being made. A study by CareerBuilder.com found that nearly 1/4 of new jobs in typically male-dominated occupations, such as CEOs, lawyers, surgeons, web developers, chemists, and producers, were filled by women between 2009 and 2017. At this point, I'd like to introduce today's panel. Let's start with Martha Bell. She is the managing principal at Tilton Kelly & Bell, the majority owner and managing principal of the Chicago architecture firm, a position she has held since 2000. The firm's work focuses on corporate, educational, and governmental projects. Bell is a licensed architect and a LEED accredited professional, LEED meaning Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. In 2010, she was named a Fellow of the American Institute of Architects. Her firm's notable projects include the American Society of Anesthesiologists building in Schaumburg, Illinois, multiple projects at the University of Illinois in Champaign, and government office projects ranging from the City of Chicago to the U.S. General Service Administration's 6-state Region 5. Prior to her partnership at Tilton Kelly & Bell, Bell was the sole proprietor of a Palatine-based firm, Martha Bell & Associates, which she began in 1986. Her work there grew from small corporate projects to substantive public work across the state. Bell served 10 years as a chairperson of the Palatine Downtown Revitalization Commission and was a founding member of the Palatine Inverness Vision in Progress. She sat on the Harper College Foundation Board for 25 years, including a term as president, and currently co-chairs the Harper Arts Committee. In 2008, she received Harper College's James J. McGrath Recognition Award. Monica Mueller is Vice President of Government Affairs at Motorola Solutions. In that role, Monica is responsible for the company's government affairs in the United States and internationally, and she oversees the company's country management organization. Before being named Vice President of Government Affairs, Monica managed the company's global giving and volunteerism efforts, serving as the Executive Director of the Motorola Solutions Foundation, the charitable and philanthropic arm of the company. She also served as the Senior Director of Inclusion, Diversity, and Outreach. Monica has been with Motorola for nearly 19 years and held various leadership roles with the company's government affairs organization, where she led operations, international and state level government advocacy, and the Motorola Solutions Political Action Committee. Before joining the private sector, Monica managed the Chicago office of Lieutenant Governor Bob Kustra, and additionally, she served as the legislative liaison and later as special assistant to the director of Illinois Department of Commerce and Community Affairs. Upon graduating college, Monica was one of 8 individuals selected by Governor Jim Thompson to serve as a Dunn Fellow. Monica serves as the chairperson of the Civic Federation of Chicago. She's on the board of the Chicagoland Chamber, for which she chairs the membership committee, and serves on the executive committee of the Illinois Chamber, where she chairs their government affairs committee. Monica also serves on the board of the Harper College Educational Foundation and is a board member of the Public Affairs Council. Additionally, she is a member of 100 Women Who Care in Chicago and a volunteer at North Shore Exchange. Monica is a native Uruguay and speaks Spanish fluently. She's a mother of 2 young adults, Conrad and Francesca. Nicole Walter is president and CEO of HM Manufacturing, a leading manufacturer of turnkey power transmission components for the aerospace and defense, medical, packaging, and food and beverage processing industries. Nicole Walter joined HM in 2009, working from the ground up in a variety of positions. She has a background in chemical engineering and finance, has extensive training on manual lathes and milling machines, and is certified in CAD and 3D modeling. Nicole also received her NIMS CNC mill operation certification to increase HM Manufacturing's production standards and efficiency. Nicole is a second-generation manufacturer. She's invested in supporting the next generation of manufacturing leaders, in addition to advancing the manufacturing industry as a whole. Nicole is on the board of directors for the National Association of Manufacturing, is a part of the Technology and Manufacturing Association Executive Board and that same organization's Education Foundation Board, coordinating grants to area high schools with manufacturing programs. As a McHenry High School Advisory Board member, she helps to improve their manufacturing program, offers internships, and mentors students about careers in manufacturing. Nicole received the Daily Herald Business Ledger Award for the Business Excellence in Manufacturing in 2016 and the Influential Women in Business Award in 2017. Additionally, she was honored with the 2019 STEP Ahead Awards, STEP meaning science, technology, engineering, and production. In 2020, Nicole was recognized as one of Crain's Chicago's Business 2020 Notable Women in Manufacturing. She's been featured in panel discussions, TV appearances, podcasts, a keynote speaker, featured as an op-ed writer for the Chicago Tribune, and has been interviewed for publications including the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Crain's Chicago Business, Daily Herald Business Ledger, SME Manufacturing Engineering, and Manufacturing Talk Radio, and more. So with that said, here we have a stellar panel of guests today, and let's get started with our discussion. We will hold some time at the end for questions from the audience. Please type your question for the panel in the Q&A box. So panelists, let's start with our first question. Describe your leadership style and how you developed it. What is the most important leadership lesson you have learned over the course of your career? Let's start with Nicole.
Okay. So I would describe it as a mixture of empathy and boundaries. It's been an evolution of trying to figure out what works best. I mean, when I came into this business, I was super young, very unskilled into what we did. And then over time, as I matured and I understood my characteristics, it really did help out the team and what I was trying to create here culture-wise. I think it's important to understand your team, how they want to be treated, what they're looking for. I think transparency is super key and always having those lines of communication. So I try to do that daily. I don't want my team to think that I just sit in this office in this glass box and that I can't be approached and just I'm only there as a visible tool. So I think just leading with that foot forward has been very beneficial. Like I said, it's been an evolution, but to me, I would say one of the most important leadership tools that I've learned over time is that no is a full answer. And I think that as women, we should be using that a little bit more often and not to be afraid to say the word no without looking crazy or that's just women being emotional. At the end of the day, you really have to lead and you have to put your company in the best foot forward. And it's okay to say no. And when I do say no, I try to remind people why I'm saying no to certain things. And to also understand that it's okay. I really appreciate my team. I think that they work really hard, but I also don't want to get taken advantage of. And so I think it's a nice mixture and a good balance between empathy and having boundaries and then letting your team know what those boundaries are. Like I said, communication is super, super key.
Thanks, Nicole. Let's go to Martha to hear your response.
I believe that I've gone through many of the same things in my leadership style. I started, if you were paying attention, 35 years ago as a business owner. And so I was rather young at that time. And I think that at that age, I felt it necessary to be especially formal, especially prepared, especially dressed in dark clothing, really trying to assert a certain amount of authority. That was externally. In my business, which is a service business, there are really two constituencies. The internal team, which is the office, and the external team, which is the clients and the projects. So dealing with lots of construction companies, men again, mostly, and clients also at that time, mostly men. So I felt it necessary internally always to be a coach. I think that's the best comparison, because I want my folks, I'll call them, to develop, to do the best they can, and I want to encourage them, teach them, guide them. Externally, I want a level of respect, and I want whatever I say to be understood as important, authoritative, and expert. And so that formal attitude helped me very much. As I've gotten older, I think it got a little bit easier, because if you have a little bit of gray hair, it brings a certain amount of authority. And so I could relax a little bit externally, but I still hold those two different constituencies in a different way, and have found that to work for me over the years.
Thanks, Martha. And let's go to Monica.
Thank you, Dr. Proctor, and thanks so much for putting together today's session. Super important. And so I'm going to build a little bit upon what Martha said, and I think I would describe my leadership style as really being a ladder as a leader. And so what I mean by that is that I think it's super important as a leader. So for those individuals that work for me, to really help them grow and advance and coach them along in their career. So that's how I would describe that. And in terms of one of the most important leadership lesson I've learned, a few years ago, I was very fortunate to be part of a really cool women's leadership program that the company selected me for. It's called Leading Women's Executives. Some of you listening may have been lucky enough to be part of that as well. And so one of the speakers at the time was the CEO of a major retailer. And she talked about how she got to where she was, and along the way, how she had taken some roles that were really outside of her comfort zone, but she realized that she was successful nonetheless. And so what she said to us is to always remember that you don't wake up stupid. And so what she meant by that is that the chances are that if you're really good at your current role, the chances are that you're going to be good at your next role. So just to go for it and not doubt yourself, and always remember along the way that you don't wake up stupid. So I think that's something that I often think about, really every week, even in my current role, and try to encourage those that work with me to think the same way, and those that I mentor as well.
Excellent. So I heard some common threads here of empowering your employees, coaching them. I heard the avoid the self-doubt, that imposter syndrome sometimes could limit our thinking and efforts. And knowing your why, Monica, when you said no is the full answer, right? That's a great takeaway, I think, for our audience. Let's go to our second question. What are some barriers to women aspiring to and attaining top leadership positions in your industry or in general? Let's start with Martha.
The most fundamental difficulty that women face in our profession, I think, is getting the work to start with, because you're always trying to find that next client, and in the end, a client might be looking at 3 or 4 excellent firms, all of whom are capable of doing the work, and they pick the firm that they would most like to work with. So as a woman, that puts us in a position where we need to put ourselves forward to be accepted as a leader and an expert, and that is not a given. If you are a woman, you have to prove it every single time. So I think that is definitely one of the difficulties. Women have to guard against being ignored or undervalued, and definitely hold themselves in great respect first, so that others may do so.
Thanks for those insights. Let's go to Monica.
Having a little bit of a hard time with the unmute button. So I think it's related to a little bit about what I was just saying earlier about making sure that you realize that you don't wake up stupid. It's pretty well known, I think, and not a surprise, that women tend to feel like they need to check all the boxes if they're going for a particular role, where on the other hand, a male is likely to just go for it, even if they don't check all the boxes. So I think that's one of the things that's super important to keep in mind. And I remember when I was selected for the program that I just talked about, the Leadership Women's Program a few years ago, one of the executives at our company, senior leaders at our company, called me into his office and said, "Hey, you've been selected for this program. Congratulations." And one of the things that he said to me is, "I know how you're going to feel, Monica. You're going to walk into this room of very accomplished women in corporate America, and you're going to feel like you don't belong. But I'm telling you, you do belong." And so I think that's part of the challenge for women is making sure that they see and that they have the confidence that they really do belong, and going for it, frankly.
Excellent. Our third question today: how critical do you think mentoring is to women's leadership advancement, and what role has mentoring played in your own career and personal development? I'll switch it up and let's go to Martha. I believe you're muted.
I'm muted. Oh, sorry.
I know you have to go back and forth.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I did not have a mentor. And at the time that I was in my career there, first of all, there were virtually no women that I associated with except at my same level. So there wasn't a mentor at the next level to guide me along. It's not that I didn't learn from my coworkers. I certainly did, but I didn't have that particular mentor. So having noticed that void or felt that void, I have tried to be that mentor to many people. And in fact, I have found that to be one of the greatest joys of my work life, really, is to help guide others along. And it's interesting, we're a women-owned firm, clearly. And that seems to attract excellent women, and we hire based on qualifications, but our firm is 75% women. Because of the excellent women that walk in our door, and actually 39% minority. So we also attract that kind of diversity. And so it's especially gratifying to help those people move forward in their profession in one that doesn't always give them those chances.
Thanks. Let's go to Nicole.
So kind of the same thing with Martha. You know, my dad started this business in '79. I was never supposed to be a part of it. It just wasn't in the cards. No women was in manufacturing, let alone a daughter. So when I did start the company, and my dad and I were like oil and water. We just didn't mix. And he's so smart and was trying to help me, and he would do A, B, C, and then go to C, and I needed A, B, B and a half, B and 3/4, because I just needed to learn. And through that process, I decided maybe the best thing for me to do, being so insecure and just lacking the skills of the manufacturing sector in general, was to go network. So I took the company and I was like, okay, we're gonna be a part of a lot of these associations. And you know, now that I look back on it 6-7 years, I don't think they were mentors. Maybe I can say that they were now, but I had a lot of colleagues who were just so great in terms of advice, very helpful in letting me do shop tours so I could see what it is that they were implementing. And over that time, as you start to meet people and you're networking, you're learning. So it almost becomes this nice mentorship and advice giving. And even during COVID last year, I could count on any of these business owners and colleagues and ask what they were doing. And so that process has helped me grow, not just individually, but it's helped the company grow. We've changed things because of that. We've implemented a lot of things. Our culture has changed dramatically for it. And so just like Martha, I really feel that if I had someone who mentored me just as a kid, shadowing, understanding what manufacturing is, maybe having just different jobs during high school, I think I would be further along in life than I am now. I mean, it was a complete start over at 24 when I showed up here knowing nothing. So now what I do is I am super passionate about the next generation. I take as much time as I can for questions, phone calls, emails, whatever it is, because I feel like this industry has done so much for me that I really want to give back. So I have interns every year, 3 times a year. It's paid. They're always young girls. And my prime example is Hannah. She started with me at 16. She is now at Miami of Ohio, full-time student, but she works for me full-time. She knew nothing about manufacturing. She didn't even know what she wanted to do. She doesn't want to go into manufacturing, but she loves this so much and found her niche in marketing and social media and PR that she can't wait to graduate and start her own PR firm. And the fact that I was able to give her just that insight of what she wanted to do and just to figure it out, that to me just speaks volumes, and I feel like I've done my job. So I always try to do that and encourage. And you know, I'm busy. All of us are busy, but if we could just let someone shadow us and understand what it is that we do and give someone the opportunity to see what it is, and maybe they don't like manufacturing, maybe they like R&D, maybe they like accounting. I think it's so important to have shadow programs to give these kids a fighting chance. So I think it's so paramount, not just for us in learning, but just for the next generation in general.
And that's so important. The future of work, there are jobs that are going to exist that we can't even fathom today. So that's important to have that insight for the future generation. I couldn't agree more. Let's hear from Monica.
See if I can get the unmute done. Okay. So unlike my colleagues, other colleagues on the panel, I've really been fortunate to have lots and lots of mentors along my career. In fact, I don't think there's been a time in my career where I haven't had a mentor, even now, frankly. And so I'm a super big believer in the importance of mentoring, and not only mentoring, but sponsoring, actually, which sponsoring is a little bit different for those of you that may not be familiar. And sponsoring is when you help pull somebody through an organization. And so in terms of some of the mentoring experiences that I've had, and one of the reasons I think it's super important is there was a time in my career where I had a very difficult situation with my boss, and I was thinking of leaving my career, my job, and was getting ready to resign. And so I decided to consult with my mentor, and the mentor at the time gave me some really sound advice. And she said to me, don't do it, don't leave, you're going to outlast this situation. And I really couldn't see past this situation, but she was able to give me a different perspective and see something that I wasn't able to see, frankly, which is why I think a mentor is so important. And so she was right. I outlasted the situation. It turned around. It ended up being really a fabulous situation. So that's, I think, one of the reasons that I'm a big believer in mentoring. But if you are a mentee, meaning that you're being mentored, I think it's super important to keep in mind and to really have some goals that you want to try to achieve out of the relationship to try to make it as productive as possible. And then I think finally, the other thing I would say on mentoring is to make sure that if you've been mentored, like I've been lucky enough to be throughout my career, is make sure that you pay it forward, that you find a way, as some of the other speakers have talked about and what they're currently doing to make sure that others can benefit from the types of things that you've been able to learn along the way in your career.
Thanks, Monica. It's interesting, two of you said you haven't had mentors, and one of you acknowledged you have, but you all value mentoring, and it definitely is key to paying it forward. So let's ask our next question. What does being a woman at the table mean to you, Nicole?
So, we talk about shattering the glass ceiling. And to me, being at the table, it was more about shattering my own glass ceiling. I felt so insecure, just in any sort of meeting. And I had to go do my due diligence. And I just didn't want to feel this way anymore of like, oh, I'm daddy's little girl in this meeting. I felt just so useless. Like I felt dumb. Like I didn't know what I was doing, what I was talking about. And I no longer wanted to feel that way. So I decided it was time to go get smart. And I did the due diligence. I took CAD classes. I took precision machining classes. I took CNC programming. I did all the things that I could so I could really start understanding what the business was, how to even implement that in terms of talking the talk, walking the walk. And after 6 or 7 years of really grinding it out and doing the night classes and really trying to understand the business from the ground up, I mean, there is not one thing in this business that I can't do or won't do. To this day, when we're short of help and we're super busy, I still run machines. I still go out there and pack. And I just think that for my own personal growth, I needed to do that because I just felt so insecure, like I didn't know anything. And that was really holding me back and holding me hostage. And so now when I'm at the table and I'm on all these boards, I believe in myself and I really feel that I do belong because I know a lot. And there's still so much to learn. I still take master classes. I listen to podcasts. I'm constantly reading. I'm still trying to take gear classes to learn even more. And so it's just an evolution and a process. And so me sitting at those tables, now I feel, hey, I'm here for a reason. I know why I'm here. I'm different. I think that's fantastic and it's great. I'm not your run-of-the-mill board member. I'm crazy. I'm always on social media. I do a lot of different things at this company that keeps it young and fresh. But it was about me shattering my own glass ceiling so that I could belong. Because for the longest time, I just felt like maybe I don't belong here. I need to find a different career. And so a lot of that skepticism inside really can just be a detriment to your growth and to what you can actually become. I mean, it's just so crazy. Just me thinking about what I was doing 10 years ago to where I am now. I'm so proud of myself. I mean, I never thought that I would be on Fox Business News and doing all these crazy things. But, I belong. I've done what I could, and I keep learning, and I always try to help as much as I can. So to me, it's about shattering your own glass ceiling.
I love the language that you're using there because you're saying you owned it, right? Shattering your own glass ceiling. Sometimes we put the limitations on ourselves, and there's a thread that's common to all three of your remarks. Being an expert, that's what you're describing. You're saying I'm going to gain the knowledge, so I'm sitting here to be self-confident to actually assert your beliefs and what you think should happen in next steps as you process whatever challenges before you. And lifelong learning, I heard that as well, right? Learning doesn't stop, right? So, all right, let's see. Did anyone else want to chime in on that before we go to our next question?
You know, I'll make a comment of that around that, Dr. Proctor. So ironically, just yesterday, I was reading an article that a colleague sent around that was on covering. And this is, for those of you that may not be familiar, it's when we change our behavior to be able to fit in. And I remember years ago when I was being mentored by a very senior person who probably had frankly reached the pinnacle of her career at that point. And she had said to me that she felt like she finally fit in when her male colleagues were treating her at that same level, were treating her like one of the guys. So talking about sports, cars, whatever, she had mentioned at that particular time to me. So she felt she had adjusted to fit in. And so when I think about what it means to be a woman at the table, I think it means when we as females don't have to cover, when we don't have to adjust our behavior to fit in.
I would just like to jump in and say, absolutely. We need to be our genuine selves, and that's when we are most empowered. And by the way, I loved Nicole's story, making yourself into an expert. Fabulous.
Excellent. I 100% agree. Being authentic, be who you are, right? That really brings a lot to the table as well. All right. Can you describe how you have built connections and relationships that have supported your leadership development and advancement? Who'd like to go first this time?
I would love to jump in, because I believe that those connections that we build, not only within our small organization, but in our field, in our community, even farther abroad than that, they give us our strength, really. And it gives us that network, as Nicole said, that we can turn to when we have a question or need some advice, or even just some encouragement. I feel that is essential to maintaining our own power in our position.
Absolutely. Monica?
So we talked a little bit, one of the speakers, I think it was Nicole, talked a little bit about the importance of knowing when to say no. And I think when I think about the flip side of that as it relates to some of the experiences I've had, what's worked for me in terms of building connections and relationships is not saying no to opportunities and projects that are a little bit out of my scope of expertise, and frankly, in some cases, way outside of my scope of expertise. So I've done that throughout my career. They've led to some really great opportunities that frankly, they have gotten me to where I'm sitting today. And I think along the way, some of those opportunities have been sideways. They haven't always been upward movement types of positions for me, but nonetheless provided me the opportunity to make all kinds of relationships. And when I think back, you know, honestly, I don't think I've had to interview for a new job since my first job out of college, because all the roles that I've been in along the way have been through the connections and the relationships that I've built.
So there's an opportunity to expand horizons by considering some things that may be out of scope.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nicole?
I think networking, being a connector, is just crucial to just business in general. I am a huge social butterfly. I love to meet people. I love to understand how people tick. I think that's why, you know, my leadership style is to empathize, to understand how someone works and what makes them happy and not. And I think that's really important to utilize. It's been so fun for me to start with absolutely nothing. And now I know so many people. I mean, just today I get to meet all of you, and how exciting that now we can share this event together, and we can always contact each other for whatever it may be. These opportunities in general are fantastic. I feel like as women, we need to start connecting more. We need to be a little bit more out there. I love when I get LinkedIn messages from things that I've done. from women engineers to women taking over their father's business, just even people from around the world. It is just so exciting and impactful for me. It just gives me energy and I love it. Kind of like Monica, in the sense of the things that I've said yes to, I love to say yes. So just as much as I say no, it's more like internally no in this company that I have to say no. But I love to say yes to so many things, including boards. Like I sit on so many boards and I love it. It has made me grow on so many different fronts. And just even doing the Education Foundation for the Technology Manufacturing Association, I don't have issues with hires because I have now bridged the gap between meeting a lot of these high schools with great programs that I have internships that turn into apprenticeship programs that turn into full-time careers should they want it. And I invest in that. And I don't have that skills gap problem. I have a lot of people now that are coming to me because of LinkedIn or all my social media posts and saying, hey, we'd like to see if you could do these programs for us because some of your competitors are having labor issues. I know you're not. So it's just so great that from one thing comes another great thing. And that wouldn't happen with the connections, the networking, the social media, being open to meeting people. I think that is great too. And I just learn. I mean, there's so many different avenues of manufacturing that I didn't know about. There's stamping, there's fine blanking, and just meeting, learning, understanding, connecting. I love it. I enjoy it. I think it's so great for your own personal growth. And so anyone here that wants to connect, I'm all for it. I will be available however I can. I just think as women, we need to do that more and stick together.
So definitely strong networking, social connections. And I heard, if I always try to string what I can hear together from your collective remarks. These connections, you offer advice or you get advice, you encourage others, expand horizons and learn more. And for what you just said, Nicole, that talent pipeline, you might be able to fix it for some of your areas or others, other industries. So great. Let's get to, we have some more time left here. So looking back 10 or 20 years, what leadership advice would you give to your younger self? Let's start with Monica.
For me, that I'm super passionate about talking to other women about is don't let others define your success. And so several years ago, I decided to take a major detour from my career and my job and became a stay-at-home mom. So I stayed home for about 7 years to raise my kids. And people who I respected in the industry, at the company, et cetera, thought I was crazy because I was leaving a great job, a great industry, great career. And so I listened to these individuals and it put some doubt in my mind. But at the end of the day, I figured out that really I was the only one that knew that was the right thing for me at that particular point in my career. And so I think that's one of the most important things is don't let others define your success. And sometimes it may be okay to take a job that's not upward mobility necessarily, but as I was talking about, a little bit of kind of a sideways move, because if it's in for whatever particular reason in your life and or is an area of interest for you.
Absolutely. You know what's best for you and your circumstance. Martha?
I think I would tell myself don't be afraid to take risk. I think, I don't know if I can generalize, but I would say for myself, I always knew, like Nicole said, I knew that I could do the job. And I knew that I could take on challenges and I believed that I could complete them, but I was afraid to take on financial risk or, risks of that nature. And I would tell myself, no, flat out, go for it.
I won't even try to repeat it. You said it. Go for it. All right.
I think for me, I probably would have told myself 10 years ago or 20. I mean, I'm 35, but whatever. Patience and trust your instinct. You know, we women have sixth senses. We really, really do. And I should have trusted my gut instinct on a lot of things way earlier. And you don't really need a reason to trust it. It's there for a reason. People will always show you their true colors and their true faces, and need to take it for face value. And patience. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was first starting out and I could never understand how these companies were growing and they're getting new machines and they're getting all these new customers. And I felt so anxious to get to that level so fast, so quick. And, you know, it almost burned me out. And you know, you almost feel like a failure. And of course, failure is just inevitable. But I think patience is key. And to also understand what your goals are. What are your metrics? Like, what are you trying to accomplish in a few years? Write it down. I really think manifestation really is key, and to always manifest it, how to get there. And those three things for me, I wish I would have learned a while ago, because you get so caught up in the grind that you just become so anxious that you almost feel like you're just running in place. So those for me, I wish I would have known ahead of time.
Great, thanks for sharing. My last question before we move to our Q&A portion, how have you found that professional experiences in dialogue change when women are at the table? Martha?
Oh, it's more mindful. I'll take
Go
that.
ahead, go ahead.
I think the conversation and the approach and the delivery is much different. And also, you know, as women, we don't take BS. I don't. I think that we're very strong leaders. And I think that us having a different voice at the table is very important. You know, we broach topics differently. We address things differently. We think differently. And I think having that at the table is so important in terms of direction. Me just being on certain boards, being very young, I've tried to change the direction and the course of how an association is going to look 5 years from now, and it needs to be heard, because I'm a millennial. I'm one of those terrible millennials. But you know, you have to think in terms of what's coming down the pipeline. You can't keep doing the same old boys club rhetoric. It's gone. It's over. And I love it. The more women, the better. I think it's important. And I've just seen a lot of changes, a lot of good changes, a lot of mindful approaches, and it's healthy.
All right, Martha, what do you think?
I too believe that the dialogue does change. I think that when there are a significant or even a few women at the table, it's less about ego and more about finding mutual solutions. I believe that women by nature tend to be, I mean, we can never generalize completely, but tend to be very collegiate and collaborative. And they want to hear what others say. They're good listeners, and they want to take that and forge a solution, perhaps not the solution they started with, but forge a mutual path forward. And sometimes men let their ego get involved a little bit more than women, and take a position and won't move from it. And I think, obviously, getting to a solution is the better path, in my opinion.
All right, and let's hear from Monica.
I would say I agree with everything that the two speakers have said. You know, definitely the collaboration, you see that come across in many ways, I think, in these types of situations. So that's a super important part of all of this.
So I heard it's healthy, path to a solution, collaborative, right? A lot of great strengths for having women at the table. All right, so audience, hopefully you have posted some questions in the Q&A. I don't see any at this time. We did ask for some to submit prior to, so we'll start with those, and hopefully you'll generate some in our Q&A. So the first question that was pre-submitted with registration, What was the best leadership advice you were given, and what was the worst advice you were given? Who'd like to take that?
So I would say the best is they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that is so important because you can know everything, but if you're not passionate about something and you don't really show how much you truly love the business or what you're doing, no one's going to care either. Worst leadership advice came from my dad. Love him, but let's just call it what it is. He was always afraid to let people go. And so he kept around a lot of toxic and cancerous people that didn't help the business move forward. And his gripe was, well, how are you going to replace them? You can't let them go. And I did everything in my power to never have to deal with that again. And that's why I worked so hard to work with a lot of these high schools that have manufacturing programs, because I never want to be caught with having to keep toxic individuals that don't want to be here, because it spreads and it just ruins everyone's vibe and energy and lack of wanting to keep progressing. So I made it my job to never have to deal with that again, because I think that that's terrible.
Thanks for that. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here. High school and the colleges that have manufacturing, we do too. So let's.
I took your classes. I should know better.
Okay, I have a question in the Q&A. Monica, how do you advise your daughter in business?
Mute. Boy, that's a great question. I think the most important thing is just to go for it, and you don't have to check all the boxes, maybe in a given role, and to not worry so much about that. And those are some of the things I think I wish I would have done earlier in my career.
The questions are coming in now. What is the best piece of advice you have for women entering any career field or industry? Anyone can take it randomly at this point as I try to get as many questions in our.
I would like women entering fields to have the confidence to go to any leader that they admire and start up a conversation. Get in contact, ask the questions you would like to ask, and recognize that people want to help people like them. So don't be afraid to go for the expert advice that you need.
Anyone else want to chime in there, or do we want to get to another question? I think we're good. All right, let's go to another question. Do you see the practice of vulnerability as a useful tool for the advancement of women in leadership roles?
Earlier, I outlined the two constituencies as I see it, the external client and the internal firm. I think that answer is different depending on which I'm talking about. So with the external client, I don't open that door really. Perhaps I should, but I personally don't. I like to maintain that expert stance. With my my colleagues, of course, you know, through my 35 years of business, I've lived through illness, I've lived through disability, I've lived through, my husband's death. They know those things, and by showing that kind of vulnerability at that time, you can draw strength from your colleagues.
All right. I want to thank our panelists. I know there are other questions coming in. If I want to squeeze this one last question, because I think it's critical, because many of us experience failure. And the question is, how do you approach and deal with failure?
embrace it. You really do. I have failed plenty. I've learned so much from it. I've learned how to reemerge from it. Everything is a lesson. I still fail to this day. I mean, even things that I posted yesterday didn't get a lot of likes. So what happened, right? Some days you're going to feel like a fraud, and other days you're going to feel like you're really doing something. And I think we need to start embracing the failures. I think it's important. It's a good learning tool. You get stronger by it. And it's okay. Every day is a failure. I mean, there's going to be moments my customers are going to call me and be like, "You're late again. Why is that?" That's a failure. And it's just a learning tool to try to re-up and get better and change the process.
Excellent. Failing forward. You're still learning from it and you're moving forward.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Oh, Monica?
No, I was just going to say, and you know what, I think it's important along those lines to also get a different perspective on, is it really a failure? Because I think we can tend to be really hard on ourselves. And is it really a failure or not? Draw on other people, whether it's mentors or others, I would say.
I like that reframing piece as well. All right. I have to turn it over to Georgiana at this time. Thank you so much for sharing the wonderful advice and expertise here to empower women. We're grateful for your contributions today. Georgiana, the floor is yours. You're muted. Number one phrase for this time that we're in.
Thank you to our wonderful panel. All of you were so inspirational. And thanks to each of you for sharing your journeys, your insights into leadership and unique experiences, and most of all, your time with us this morning. You know, Maya Angelou is one of my people that I look to for inspiration. And all during your comments and being involved with the Hope Giving Circle, part of one of her quotes that always drives me is, when you learn, teach, and when you get, give. And all of you demonstrated that, and all of our wonderful Hope Giving Circle members also lead by that. This is the time in the program where we'd like you to give an opportunity to join with the Hope Giving Circle and making a difference in the lives of women in our community. And if you're not a member or supporter of the Hope Giving Circle and you have a passion for empowering women like our panel members do, we invite you to join our mission. And I'd like to highlight a few key elements of the Hope Giving Circle. Membership in the Hope Giving Circle is on an annual basis and begins with a minimum contribution or pledge of $1,000. And you can also become a Hope supporter with a minimum contribution or pledge of $250 annually. The gifts or pledges may be broken into installments, and if you're a Harper employee, you can also use payroll deduction. The wonderful thing about your donations is 100% of your membership donations will be directed to the Hope Scholarship Fund, and that's administered by the Harper College Educational Foundation. As a Hope member, you have the opportunity to serve on the Scholarship Awards Committee to select scholarship recipients, and they're going to be meeting soon. You also have an opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to serve as a mentor, which our panelists had mentioned the importance of mentoring to the scholarship recipients and make a direct impact in their lives. To join today, simply click on the link posted in the chat or visit harpercollege.edu/hope. We'll also send a post-event email with this information included. And if you're not able to make a membership or supporter commitment at this time, but would like to make a gift to the Hope Scholarship Fund, your gift of any size can make a tremendous impact, and we appreciate your support. We hope you've enjoyed the program this morning, and we look forward to seeing you at future events. Actually, please save the date for our 6th annual Scholarship Awards event that'll be held later this summer, Tuesday, August 17th. Save the date. Details will come out later this summer. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great day and a great weekend. Thanks again.